We have to quickly take you to the headquarters of the Electoral Commission, and there's an announcement ongoing there. Samuel Tete, who's Deputy Electoral Commissioner, is speaking on the referendum and the outcomes. There were some, if you recall, there were some videos going around about electoral malpractices. They've been investigating. Here is the report.
Election materials needed for the referenda were dispatched to the regions some weeks before the voting day. Temporary personnel, that is, referenda officials, were properly trained and deployed at the right time. The over 4,000 polling stations had their materials in time and in right quantities. All the polling stations were able to go through the voting process within the stipulated time frame, with voters exercising their franchise in a free and conducive environment. The results of the referendum were declared within 24 hours after the close of poll, which was also unprecedented in national elections. The average voter turnout of 80.9% was not the highest, but among the highest ever recorded in the Fourth Republic, as some of us have been made to know. The fact that there has not been any post-election disputes also indicates or shows that the results were incontrovertible. The results were generally accepted by everyone. As we all know, there are also concerns about rejected ballots, and this had persistently constituted a third force on all results declaration forms of every elections in Ghana since 1992, to the displeasure of all stakeholders. Some people even call the rejected ballot the third candidate or whatever it is. You find out that basically it has a chunk of what? Votes. However, in the referenda, the percentage of rejected ballots was as low as 0.26%, which is a dramatic reduction from 2016 figure of 1.54%. All what we can say is that this did not just happen. It's because of the efforts that the EC as a body put in place. We believe it was an indication of how effective public education was carried out prior to the election. The Electoral Commission, as well as the NCC, collaborated effectively to educate the voters, and this resulted in the reduction of the high numbers of rejected ballots which characterized the two previous exercises. And we believe that with this improvement, it is not out of place for us to be given the credit, looking at the reduction of the number of rejected ballots in this referendum. Legally, the 2018 referendum was a big victory not only for the 6 regions, but all of us. If you look at it, the minimum 50% constitutional voter turnout requirement and the 80% in support were all far exceeded. In other words, the threshold which is required for the creation of the regions. One incident that was of great significance to us as a nation prior to the referenda is the fact that we witnessed politicians from different political divides coming together to campaign for a common cause. This single episode is a big sigh of relief to Ghanaians that our dear nation is not polarized after all, beyond repairs, but rather we deem Ghana first before our political affiliations. Despite the political differences, all those craving for the new regions for the first time came together as one in order to achieve their objective of getting the new region. Now we move on to the responses so far as our investigations are concerned. One of the major concerns was the high numbers of manual verification forms which were used at the various polling stations. One of the concerns raised bordered on what was termed as the unusual high numbers of manual verification. And to put things in context, it is important to note the following facts. We have to note that the right to vote is a constitutional right, and it is therefore incumbent on us as election managers or election management body to take the necessary steps to make it possible for all eligible voters to exercise their franchise. It is in the light of this that manual verification was introduced as an alternative legal means to enable those who are rejected by the BVD to cast their votes. So if you are not verified by the BVD, that shouldn't be the end. This was actually the issue in the 2012, and those who were talking about the no verification, no vote, the commission had to actually consider that aspect of it and then introduce the manual verification form. The manual verification is not a backup plan for more functioning of a BVD as portrayed by some sections of the public. The reverse is rather the case. In other words, manual verification cannot be substituted for BVD. The truth is that there cannot be any manual verification in the absence of a functional BVD, since one needs the latter to scan the barcode of the voter in the register for his or her picture to pop up before one can proceed to use a manual verification facility for a voter whose fingertips are not recognized or are rejected by the BVD. This is to say that the use of manual verification is not precipitated by non-functioning of the BVD, but rather a challenge with the friction ridges of the voters or the fingertips. In a nutshell, when you are not verified by the BVD, that doesn't mean the BVD is more functioning. There are so many reasons why the fingerprints of voters are not verified by the BVD. And we'll know in our subsequent submission some of the challenges that voters actually have. Then, like any other electronic device, the newer they are, the sharper and more sensitive they become. And the older they are, the lower their sensitivity level. So it is also important to note that some of the BVDs were acquired way back in 2012 and some in 2016, and that the newer they are, the higher or sharper the sensitivity of their fingerprint scanners. So this is also very simple. When devices also get old, they also have a challenge, or it has a challenge with the verification, or let's say the challenge to work properly. From experience and previous exercises, the elderly and people who do hard work with their hands, we have people like farmers, we have masons, we have carpenters, we have soap makers, and others, are often not verified by the BVD, and that the rejection is mostly due to traumatized friction ridges, oily or dirty fingertips, but not due to malfunctioning of the BVD. And these are some of the reasons that we have actually adduced. If you go to those areas, the farming communities, the fisher folks, mechanics and all that, because of the type of job that they do, they have their fingers not damaged as such, but it becomes very difficult for the BVD to verify the fingers of those people. That most first-time rejections by the BVD, as claimed by a section of the people, are also false. And that in most cases, when the same voters who are rejected for the first or second time exercise patience and wash their hands with coke, alcohol, key soap, and the like, they are sometimes verified by the same BVD that rejected them earlier. Some even sometimes just relaxing for some time can change matters. So the issue put up there that the first time voters, the BVD is rejecting is false, simply because after going through the use of coke, alcohol, key soap, and the like, for the second time or third time, they are able to go through the verification. That the official results from CMB Shed A, which is Sefiawensu polling station in the Western region, as captured on the referendum results declaration sheet EL21F, indicates that the actual number verified was 64 out of 703, that is 9.1%, but not 634, which is 52%, as was put out. So this should also be noted, that the information that it was 634 was false. Then the highest number of manual verification per hour investigations was 19.1% in the Northeast region, and the lowest was 3.2% in the OT region. So overall, the average number of manual verification in the 6 regions was 9.8%. We can also note that since some of the BVDs were old, the sensitivity level of their fingerprint scanner had gone down. Those who happened to be supplied with the old ones were likely to have higher number of manual verification, and this we have already stated. Another reason which would have also led to the reduction of the use of manual verification is that the BVDs were not used during the exhibition prior to the referenda as we did in the 2016. This could have helped us to put most of those voters who were rejected by the BVD on the face-only list to avoid the use of manual verification. In other words, during the exhibition, all BVDs used, those who were not verified were put on face-only. However, because of time constraints and the fact that the BVDs needs to be refurbished for the exercise, the Commission decided to avoid the use of the BVDs for that exercise. In as much as the Commission agrees that these figures are unusually high, from these findings of our investigations, it is clear that the presiding officers who worked at the various polling stations during the referenda had any bad or diabolic intentions in their decision to use so many verification forms, and moreover, the use of manual verification forms, they didn't actually commit any electoral offense. The Commission would like to point out that though the application of the manual verification is legal, the increased numbers recorded under the procedure is just an irregularity. However, it was not consistent, not widespread, and systematic. Hence, fraud or criminality cannot be attributed. As a conclusion, what we mean by irregularity is, for instance, if we are supposed to start polls at 7 and we start at 7:30 or 8, it does not affect the outcome of the results. It is an irregularity. This is not criminal. The other aspect is the unusual high voter turnout as put up in the public domain. At national level, we note that the average voter turnout was 80.9%, but not 97% as was claimed in the allegations or put up by some sections of the general public. We think that this is not unusual, looking at the level of enthusiasm and the collective efforts put into the campaign. Also, considering the fact that in 2004 and 2012, Ghana recorded a voter turnout of 85.1% and 80.1% respectively in the presidential and parliamentary elections. 80.9 should not be a source of worry, but rather should be commended. And this is looked at the background of the fact that if you look at the referenda, it is quite different from presidential parliamentary. This is something that the voters are yearning for. New regions, it is an opportunity. If it is missed, it will be very difficult for one to get to it again. So it is something like a do and die affair for those in the carved areas. Again, 3 polling stations out of over 4,000 polling stations, namely Cocoa Shed, Obrokom in the West North, DA Primary School, Fante, and CMB Shed, Kajako, Okwe, all in Oti region, recorded 100% voter turnout. What we actually found out, our investigations revealed that these polling stations have registered voters of 49, 30, and 88 respectively. There are no large number of voters on the roll. As the low numbers of registered voters indicate, these were very small communities where the inhabitants knew one another and their houses. If the community is a very small one, most of them are known. People can go to the various houses and then ask them to go and then cast their vote. So this, to us, is not something which is out of place. Then, the next is the cleaner and leaner voters register. The voters register to be used for the referendum needs to be clean and then has to be put in proper shape to meet the required threshold. Therefore, it is instructive to point out that all these happen against the background of the fact that the campaigners being aware of the significance of the voter turnout in the referenda and knowing that the existence of the ghost names on the register could mathematically suppress the voter turnout, did everything they could to remove the names of the dead on the register during the exhibition exercise that closely preceded the referendum. The people were made aware that if they have a lot of ghost names on the register, it can mathematically affect the turnout. It can affect the threshold that they need to get the region through. And therefore, the community, the stakeholders, all those who were involved actually did well to push people to go and then check their names and then try to remove the deceased on the register. No wonder we had an unprecedented turnout of 72.5% in the 2018 exhibition exercise as against 45.7% in 2016 exhibition. So if you look at the figures for both, 72.5% in 2018 and then 45.7 in the 2016. That alone tells you the fact that the people were really ready to do everything to get the regions. Next is the all-involving campaigns mounted by those who were relevant or those who were in need of the regions. Unlike the normal elections that we are familiar with, in this referendum, almost all the political parties, opinion leaders, the citizens, etc., buried their differences of any kind and came together, supported and campaigned for only one candidate. And that candidate that we all know is what? Either yes or no. But in this case, all of them campaigned for yes. All in their united efforts to achieve their collective objective of having the regions created. In fact, the referendum was deemed as the destiny of the voters being placed in their own hands because they believed the creation of the region would bring about speedy development in their area. They also thought that this was an opportunity which should not be missed. In view of this, a clear signal was that anyone who would fail to take part in the voting would be considered as an enemy of progress. In addition to the high intrinsic motivation for the individuals to vote, there were other external factors that also improved patronage. Volunteers who knew all the voters embarked on house-to-house personal campaign, not only to encourage them to vote, but also to facilitate their movement when necessary. In this regard, even the aged and the sick were carried by the campaigners to the polling station to enable them to cast their votes. Even in some of the regions, some of the overlords, some of the opinion leaders even went to the shrine and the fetish place, whatever, and then those who were eligible to vote moved them to the polling stations to go and vote. These are some of the reports that we had when we did the investigations. Extensive and intensive public education. Coupled with the above is the extensive and intensive publicity of public education by the combined efforts of the Electoral Commission and many other interested parties, resulting in such a historical high voter turnout. The Electoral Commission mobilized all its resources from other regions to embark on a 3-week publicity period prior to the voting date. For the first time in the history of our election, some experienced senior officers were co-opted from the other regions as coordinators to sensitize the opinion leaders in the various communities within the period. The coordinators were sending their reports weekly to the commission. The commission looked at it, and that actually helped the commission to operationalize or put in place strategies to deal with challenges on the field. Even before the Electoral Commission could get to the field to start its publicity or sensitization of the electorate, other organizations, government functionaries, voluntary youth organizations, and individuals had already done enough publicity. So before we even started our publicity, the chiefs, opinion leaders, youth groups, all those who mattered had already started the campaign for the creation of the new regions. The collective efforts in publicity created awareness at every nook and cranny of the affected regions, and this, no doubt, brought about a high voter turnout. In some traditional areas, as said, directed by overlords and chiefs to their subjects to observe 27th December 2018 as a traditional holiday and focus on the referenda might have impacted massively on the voter turnout. In these places, overlords and their sub-chiefs led their people to the polling stations on voting day. The issue of circulating videos on social media. The videos that started circulating in the social media immediately after the referenda alleging or suggesting multiple voting was a source of worry to the Commission. After analyzing the videos and conducting the necessary investigations, our conclusion is that the videos are not real. The videos circulated on the social media presents crucial questions for consideration. This stance has been informed by the following reasons. 1. Since we did not issue staff identity cards for the temporary staff we engaged for the referendum, all election officials were given election officials jackets at the polling station just before the commencement of the voting and were taken back immediately after the results had been declared at the polling station. The Commission insisted that jackets should be worn throughout the voting period for security and identification reasons. And all the coordinators and officers who monitored the voting confirmed that this directive was strictly complied with. The question is, how come that none of the officials cited in all the videos was wearing the election official's jacket? Again, these officials were not recruited online. They were recruited by returning officers and the technicians in conjunction with the district electoral officers. They personally recruited them and trained them. The returning officers handed the election materials to the officials personally, and they also went around monitoring and had personal interactions with these officials on the voting day. Finally, the election officials submitted the election results and materials back to the returning officers after everything was over. With these interactions, the returning officers could have actually identified the faces of the people involved if they were really the staff of what? The Commission. A critical look at one of the videos in which somebody was thumb printing ballot papers outside the screen reveals that even the ballots did not bear the conspicuous yellow and brown colors for yes and no, respectively, as appeared on the ballot for the referenda. And in the same video, you also find out that the logo on the papers on the next table was the old one without the coat of arms, which we did not use for the referenda. It is instructive to note that all the documents we used for the referenda bore the original logo with a coat of arms which had been reintroduced before the referenda. So how do we even justify the use of our election materials when we had changed our logo? You find election materials bearing the old what? Logo at the polling stations. You find election officials not putting on election officials' jackets. This leaves much questions to be answered. The video did not indicate the locations and the time that the incidents took place, and since the Commission does not have the capacity to establish when, where, and how the videos were shot, things in the video continue to be a mystery till now. That is why we are hoping that the security agencies to whom the issues have been referred, and the chairperson of the commission wrote to the Ghana Police Service to investigate and let us know the outcome or report. We haven't actually received the report from the Ghana Police Service. The commission is still awaiting. However, in connection with the second video taken from a location near a grave, our investigation indicates that the said polling station, which the CMB shared D18012, exists in the Jasikan district in the Oti region. The gentleman who took the video was interrogated by the district officer, but he claimed he was excited to witness the referenda taking place, and as a result decided to take the video with his phone. However, we should also take a critical look at the video, and you can find out that if you look at the voter who was allegedly doing multiple voting, you cannot actually tell exactly what a person was actually doing in a booth. You only find out that the hand was just moving to the screen and then out, to and out. Whatever the voter was actually doing in the booth was not actually established. But you can all bear with us that with the current technology that we have, it is easy to have such a video. Yes, doing the multiple voting or action or whatever. Yes. Yes. So with technology, it is very likely that you actually have the voter moving the hand in, out, alleging some sort of multiple voting. In conclusion, we can conveniently say that in as much as we accept that some irregularities might have occurred, and I have explained what we mean when we say irregularity, these are not consistently recorded even across the regions. The irregularities were not widespread and systematic in the affected regions, and therefore not infractions of the electoral process. In spite of the few challenges experienced, the referendum was generally peaceful and very successful. However, we are still looking forward to the police to continue from where we ended, and should there be any trace of criminality established, we will give our full support and cooperation to the culprits brought to book. So basically, this is all what the commission has on the alleged video which circulated immediately after the referendum, as well as some of the concerns which were raised. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dede. Now we can take the questions.
Thank you very much. My name is Fred Duho. I am with the Finder newspaper, and I want to actually put it on record that I was at OT, that enclave, and I covered the election over there. And I want to base my question on these facts that I have witnessed. At the Jasikan Circuit Court, I personally took a video there. And in this video, because I've ever worked with the Electoral Commission before as a data entry clerk, I really know what verification means. and what the manual verification equally means. At this particular center, the presiding officer there counted the total number of voters that day to be 695. 695. It was left with only 25 for that particular register to be complete. So I went to him. I was curious. I wanted to know how he managed to get that large turnout. So when I went to him, I asked him to actually open the register for me to see whether these barcodes in the register have been destroyed, because per the Electoral Commission's own regulations, when a voter comes, the name is confirmed that that is the person. You proceed to the PVD, where your barcode in the register have to be destroyed to indicate that you've successfully gone through the process. This particular center, the barcodes were not destroyed. 333 barcodes I counted were not destroyed out of the over 695 people that voted there as a total number. My question then is, through the process of verification, how do you allow the manual verification, which we are trying to minimize, exceed the total number of PVD?
So you've just been watching what's happening at the EC headquarters. They've been giving us an update on the referendum and the issues that came up from that particular referendum. They've been addressing the issue of verification, manual verification, and the voter turnout, in fact, which has become a bone of contention. They say there's still investigations ongoing. But we'll now take you back to the Electoral Commission headquarters, where the information flow is still ongoing about the referendum and matters arising from that particular referendum. Earlier, they've been speaking about the verification machines and how they performed on that day, manual verification, and the number of people who were verified, or the number of verifications there, and voter turnout.
Internal investigations. Thank you.
My question.
What question is?
I asked a specific question whether the one on the video is not one of the officials because he didn't wear a jacket.
Yes, from the investigations that we did, he is not one of us. The returning officers were not able to identify him as one of our staff, and I indicated in the response, it wasn't an online recruitment. They were physically recruited by the returning officers. They came to the office to take their materials and all that. And then after the close of pool, they also brought the results back to the returning officer. So all these people were known by the returning officers, and none of them actually testified to the fact that he was one of our staff. We only buttress the fact that, in addition, he was not even wearing the jacket provided by the commission. So that is an added fact. Thank you.
That point actually, I'm confused about it.
Mr. Duo, you had.
No, I met people who didn't wear the jacket. They were working for the PC.
My name is Pakistan. I work with Star. I want to find out, since you reported the matter to the police, between then and now, what word have you gotten from the police? Have they reached out to you? Have you reached out to them on how far they are gotten on the investigation?
Yes, what I know is that when the chairperson wrote to the Ghana Police Service, she made a follow-up with a reminder to the Ghana Police Service. But up till now, we haven't gotten any response. So we are still waiting. Thank you. Yes, the CID came to take our statements. So that is the only thing that we know. And the reminder from the chairperson to the IGP. So these are the two things. Thank you.
Lucas,
With the video.
Lucas, Lucas, somebody wants to ask. Let the person ask him.
Thank you very much. My name is Wisdom. I work for XYZ Broadcasting. Now, on the said person who you say is not your member, because the returning officers were able to identify him, this person, regarding what he did, might say that he's denting the image of the EC. Has the EC reported him to the police? Where is he?
The police is investigating.
Yeah. I think it's the same old story. The police is still investigating. So let us wait for the outcome of the police investigation. But I think the general public is also having the video. A lot of people are having the video. And the concern is that if people are having it and they also have any way of letting us also get a lead to what actually happened, why not? So it is not as if it is only the commission and then the Ghana Police Service. This is a general concern to all of us. So we are also appealing to all those who are in possession of the video, those who can help us to also come out. Thank you.
I think this is a matter that is very grave. And I think that, it's not something that the EC will condone with any of his staff, whether they are temporary or permanent. It's something that we consider very, very, very grave. And it is for that reason that we went out of our way. And I'm sure that this is maybe the first time that the EC has contacted the IGP, to take up matters such as this. I do not believe that this is the first time some such things have happened. But we consider it very grave because the EC has its integrity and its credibility to protect. We are all aware that in the recent past, the EC has had some damage to its credibility. And we do not condone, in any terms, acts that will seek to mar the integrity and the credibility of the EC. And so we are working very, very hard to restore any damage that has been done to the integrity of the EC. And we like to assure you and the general public that if any official, whether it's a permanent staff or a temporary staff, is found to involve himself or herself in such acts, the EC will not cover up at all. But as Mr. Tete mentioned, these are videos that have been in circulation for close to 5 months, and we have not had anybody come in with any concrete evidence. I think we've had many press releases of this. We've called our regional directors. We have said to them that we are not going to shield anybody. We've asked them to do their own investigations because they have recruited these staff, temporary staff, in the field. And what they have said to us is that they are not aware of this gentleman who was thumbprinted. The gentleman who was in the ballot box, and I'm surprised because I got the video from day one, I think the same night of the election. I do not see the difference, but I really look forward to it. And I believe that the police has a cyber crime unit. And we did say in a letter to them that they must employ their cyber crime unit to go into it. But from the videos that I have seen, at the time on the 28th of December and today, I do not see a difference. And I look forward, if you do have those videos, I'm sure that if you have the original, it should not depart from, and it's on your phone, and you have it. You should be able to show it to us. But I have not seen it. And if anybody has, and we have discussed it. Nobody sees the ballot before the gentleman, where has different ballots. All you see is his back, and you see the hand movement in and out, but you do not see the ballots. Yes, the box is there out in the open. The ballot box is there in the open. It's still there in the video. But you do not see it physically walking to it.
Yes.
But we'd like to assure you and the general public that we would rather have 1, 2, 3, or 4 or 5 people in jail sentenced for criminality than to mar the integrity and the credibility of the commission. So I think let's work together. If the media, if you have this, I think that we've said this for 5 months. You should have raised it. Those who were in the field who saw these things should have raised it. To date, nobody was even able to pinpoint that this happened in this particular polling station. It was when we called our regional directors, all of them. I mean, it makes it very difficult, because had it not been for the graveyard, where it's easy, they said immediately that this was Jasik and we're going to go in and investigate. And they did. The gentleman is there. And if he was involved in criminality, we call on the police to pick him up. If indeed what he said was, it was his excitement, so he had someone take a video of him, they should investigate further and verify that. But as far as we know, this is what we are getting from the field. We cannot do more than that. That's why we put it out to the police. So we'd like to assure you, you are partners in our democracy, and we are working together. If you have the evidence and you know what we do not know or see, please bring it up. And you will see that the SEC will take further action and not shield anybody. Thank you.
Okay, well, there's a gentleman at the far end.
Let's go. No, let's
All right. Thank you very much. I think we now have the vernacular stations can have their stage.
Oh, we have to go.
I said I'll leave you at this stage.
Okay, madam. We have to go. Look at. We did also, and the technical. So.
Summarize.
That's the Electoral Commission press conference there that's just ended. It was, of course, led by Samuel Tete, who is Deputy Electoral Commissioner. There was Jean Mensah, who is the Electoral Commission chairperson herself, speaking to issues and matters arising from the recently held referenda. They spoke to verification machines and how they performed on that day, the manual verification system. And of course, I'll tell you a bit more about what they said about the manual verification. They say about 64 out of 703 was the number verified. 64 out of in a particular polling station, about 64 out of a number of 703 was verified, and not the 63 put out there. They actually responding to some issues that have come up on that. He also speaks about voter turnout, and the voter turnout, if you recall, a lot of people have said was over 90%. Well, he's been dismissing that. He says the national voter turnout was 80.9% and not the 90% that has been put out. And even so, he said it is not unusual based on the level of enthusiasm and collective campaigns that went on there. They also spoke about perception of the referenda, among others. These are some of the things that fed the high voter turnout that we saw. He went on to also speak about the social media videos, which has been a crucial part of the discussion after that referenda. He said that 2 videos that emerged. One of them, he analyzes it and says that there's supposed to be a jacket worn by all officers, but these officers that were seen in one of the videos were not wearing the jackets. The ballots paper, the ballots that they were using did not even have the pictures or the colors. That's the yellow and brown. That was for yes or no. The ballot papers did not have these. He said the material they were using did not have the new EC logo as well. He goes on to say that the second video has been referred to the police for further investigations. That was taken in Jasikan in the Oti region. They're investigating that, but it has not been established what the person was actually doing in that ballot box that was seen earlier on. You're still watching The Pulse with me, Gifty and